On this episode of The Failure Report, we examine how Kela unknowingly was the brainchild behind how we experience food delivery. Now, he is a serial entrepreneur who is walking on sunshine. Thank you guys so much for joining us on a brand new episode of The Failure Report. So before we started this show, I was just joking with Kela about I am going to get your interview. I have been stalking this guy since we were in a conversation together. I was presenting at a meetup, and we were talking about failures because I'm obsessed with my failures. I talk about them all the time. And he was like, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. And the realness, the rawness, the opportunity just to stand in his truth was just appealing. And I was like, I will have him on the show. So I chased him for a little while, but we made it happen. So I'm on location at the beautiful Moxie in Columbus, Ohio. He's sitting in his own house. This is his everyday view that he's got going on here. So Kela, thank you so much for being on the show today. Thank you so much for being willing.
Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here. I remember when we met, it was really exciting to see what you were doing. I was so invigorated coming out of there, and there's just your energy. It's just explosive. It's like we should have had this on a Monday, right? And this should kickstart my week. Like talking to you live. I mean, what else could I want? That's like coffee times 100. So.
I love that. Well, we can schedule our little Monday powwows. We'll have a little Monday motivation with just the two of us. How about that? Well, guys, I'm going to hop right into it. Like I said, I am on location at the Moxie, so I apologize about some of the background noise, but we're going to jump into it anyway. So listen, I remember when we talked, we were talking about just, you know, you've sold a company, you've been acquired by a company. I want you to get into like how did you start? Where did you start in your startup world? And then like, so what do you do? And then when did you know that, that you had hit a space? Maybe not a failure space, but a space nonetheless.
Say that again. I'll say the last part.
Yeah, when did you know that you had hit a space? You know, we categorize that as a point, a period in time. You know, where you're like, something ain't right.
Yeah. Okay. I guess how I started. So I'm originally from Nigeria. Mm-hmm. I went to the University of Louisville. So go Cards. I'm right now in Louisville. So I thought I would be a professor. But I always had this mantra that I wanted to be the best at whatever I was doing. And if I didn't believe I couldn't be it, I wasn't going to do it. So there was a paper I was trying to replicate. I couldn't do it. I was like, look, what kind of good scientist am I going to be if I can't even replicate this guy's study? And so anyway, I went over to starting a company instead of grad school. Dropped out of grad school to start that. And it was just learning. I just had to learn as I was going. I started getting really enamored around startups and around the successes that you've seen, you know, just reading books, things like 0 to 1, following people's stories about, you know, what it is for you to do, attending, you know, local places in Louisville that'll let you know what to do. So I just went in head first, right? Like, I'm going to do this. I found a problem. I was like, look, restaurants, we were at this restaurant and we'll have people say like, hey, we want to order food, but we don't want to come by. And the only option that they had in the city was it'll get to you in an hour, 30 minutes. It'll travel so far. And I was like, yo, this just doesn't work. We need something else that works. And that's how I came up with my first idea, right? I was in grad school working in a restaurant. I saw what need that they have. And I was like, hey, I could make an Uber Eats. Well, there wasn't an Uber Eats, but just for the sake so we can, everyone can understand that. It really was just an Uber Eats. At its time it was called Arrow Food Couriers, Arrow My Food. So our thing was we would pick up food. We were working with a couple restaurants partners. You would order, we'll go pick up the food and deliver it to you. And then we were around like the first companies where you can track your orders and see it in real time. And so we did all that, you know, all that cool stuff. And right, it felt like things were going, you know, you know, like restaurants, we were just getting some momentum, and then we noticed that our orders didn't keep on growing, right? So the orders were growing as we added new restaurants. What I would notice is we could have maybe 10 orders from maybe 2 restaurants. I add a third restaurant, it gets to 12. So it seems like it's just, you know, keep doing the work, adding the restaurants and let it grow. But what we noticed was the orders just didn't keep on growing. And a lot of restaurants didn't want to, they just didn't want to, like a manager would tell me, look, I get paid $40,000 a year to make this happen and it's already hard. if we add delivery and we work with you guys, I'm still gonna get paid the same thing, and it's just additional work for me. So we were just seeing a hard time scaling from there, and engaging the restaurants, and that's when things just started looking like, hey, what's about to happen? Like, I don't know. We had a target of what we wanted to make. We're a couple 100,000 we wanted to make in revenue. We didn't look like we were gonna hit it, and it was just like, hey, does this work? Let's just push it up and keep going a few more months. And then I had a car wreck. We were hit on a delivery, and that kind of felt like it was like, okay, God, that's kind of what you're asking for. That car wreck happened, and it affected my ACL. I had to have surgery and some couple things, and that was kind of the space. So I'm gonna land at where that space was, but not necessarily how the end was.
And it's so interesting because I've just noticed that it is a space that happens, like a situation. You know what I mean? Like something happens that throws you either off your game or makes you feel like, I'm not supposed to be doing this. This is not what I'm supposed to be doing. But to hear your story of saying like, yo, I had the idea of doing Uber Eats, or you know what I mean? And to have been doing it, because see, I didn't know that part. You had been doing this, and then you had this accident. You know what I mean? So was that the thing that made you say like, okay, this is not for me. This is not what I'm going to do right now?
I think it was a cumulative action of like that, of not only that, I think that really was the cap, right? Just wasn't growing as much as we would want to, and having a hard time raise. I think we were like, hey, we either raise venture capital or we die, right? Most of the companies that were doing that had to go that route. And so we were having a hard time raising that. And then, usually you're like, okay, I'm going to be more resilient and keep on going. But there's a limit to what that resiliency is. And you have to know when to say, like, I'm stopping, right? Like, what is it for me? Like, it's my mental health, is it affecting my mental health? Is it, like, how am I relating with my family? These are those important things that after, I started to realize that, these things matter. And so when that accident happened, it felt like it was like, look, this is just not working. I'll show you some other idea from what you're doing, what you can work on.
So did you just walk away from it and just say, okay, that's not what we're going to do anymore?
Yeah, so I had another idea on the side, and so it wasn't a pivot. It was just more of like, look, this is not working out. If we keep on going, people will order and we'll just have debt with the restaurants. And so I was like, look, we're gonna walk away with this with little debt. We have cars that had to be debt on our name. It cost us because we had our agreement with Mercedes where they gave us some cars at like I think 60% off, but we still had that 40% to be paying over time. So it was like, look, the idea was like, how can we get out of this with the least debt? And so we were able to just sell out some of our contracts to another company that was coming into Louisville. So that company actually got acquired by Grubhub. So we just, we were like, hey, we have this 30 restaurants. I'll go recruit them for you. You guys give us this money, and so we can pay off our debts. And so I shut that down.
So then that company ends up getting acquired by Grubhub.
Yeah. So the company that bought our contracts ended up getting acquired by Grubhub. Not necessarily because of what we're doing, but because they had that scale, right? But
Right. Yeah. But it's always one of those things, and that's the scariest part about like stopping to me. You know what I mean? Is it's like you hate the what if. The what ifs keep you up at night. You know what I mean? Like, so what if I would have just gone on for another month or two? You know what I mean? Like, what if I would have contracted out the fleet? What if I would have done da-da-da-da-da-da? You know what I mean?
Exactly. My what if is, what if we didn't get those cars? Like, we could have gone longer. And but luckily, I happen to try not to regret as much because, like, I'm like, look, I'm fine where I'm at. And like, I think one activity that I usually practice is I think about all the horrible things that has happened in my life that I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to get up from this, right? Whether it's from, losing family members or jobs or moving to a different place or losing loved ones or dropping out of college or just not having to, just all those different things, I kind of look at it, I'm like, oh, I'm still fine. And so, when it came to the time for the what if, I just had one what if, and I was like, okay, that's it. Let's move on to the next thing. I learned a whole lot of it and optimized for learning throughout the whole process.
I'm Deon Stokes, and I mindfully curated the Ambition Planner for ambitious women of faith like you. I am the CEO and founder of Forensic Marketing Agency, the host of 2 podcasts. I've created a tech company, and I'm a wife. So needless to say, my schedule is ambitious. So I was looking for a planner that was going to be able to keep me spiritually grounded. I was looking for something to be able to provide a budget, give me an hour-by-hour to-do list, and a culturally inclusive planner. And I couldn't find it anywhere. So I took my disappointment and I channeled it into creating the Ambition Planner. You know how they say in 21 days you can break a habit? Well, in 90 days, you can change your life. The Ambition Planner is the only planner that provides you a space where you can focus on your short-term goals so that you can achieve your most ambitious dreams. In addition to helping you to achieve your most ambitious goals, we donate a percentage of every single planner sold to a female-founded nonprofit organization because we believe that when one woman levels up, we all level up. If you would like more information or to purchase an Ambition Planner, please visit our website at theambitionplanner.com and get ready to start on your next ambitious journey.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because the shoulda, coulda, woulda, that thing right there, I call her a heifer. That heifer will kill you. Hate her because the shoulda, coulda, woulda is just like it nags at you. You know what I mean? Like if I could have done this, if I should have done that, but if we would have done this faster, this could have happened. But I love the perspective that you put it in. You said I did it once. Yeah. I left it there because at the end of the day, I can't do it. You know what I mean? Or I don't want to do it. Or you had that idea. You had another idea in the back of your mind. So what was the new idea that you had?
Oh, great. Well, the new idea kind of. I noticed, because I said it, like before Uber Eats, we would have it where you could see where your delivery driver is on a delivery. Well, we didn't just do it just because it's cool. We did it because we didn't want to waste time knocking at people's doors.
Yeah.
And so that didn't really help. So one day I'll be like, people be like, hey, leave something at my door. I'll be right back. And I'm like, look, this is food, right? Yeah. I don't want Ramsey's Cafe to come be like, hey, you left my food outside, So it's like, hey, what if there was something to put that food in? And that gave the first spark, not the full I needed for the idea, but it gave the first spark for the idea. It was like, hey, what if there was a compartment where you can drop something for somebody when they were not at home? And so that's when it lit up, and I just kept on driving my cars. Like, I think it was a rich people part of town. So it was really cool. I just looked at the nice house. I was like, hey, how can I put my new whatever I'm thinking over there? But it wasn't until I missed the delivery that I was like, hey, well, this has a big application in if people, if a courier comes, which I'm save the U.S. Postal Service. I'm a very, very big fan of the USPS. It's my biggest. That's a government organization that I love. But anyway, so it was a big problem for them. I was like, it's a bigger issue, missed deliveries and stolen packages, and so if we could have a receptacle that mailmen could just drop packages in, that would make more sense.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so that was your new business venture. That's where you
business venture.
And so I hate to ruin the story because weren't you acquired?
Yeah. Luckily we were it's so funny. We were acquired. I moved into an apartment over here and it's funny that the package locker that we had in the apartment, it was like I never knew we had package lockers in Louisville apart from the one that we had in Amazon. So real quick, it was a package locker company. I built a company where it's like an Amazon locker, but for your suburban home. It's outside. They can solar powered, 3G connected. It just barcode scan. They scan. It opens up, and then you place it there. So that's really what it was. But I'd never seen anyone apart from an Amazon locker. And then I moved into an apartment that has a Luxer box. And a couple months after I moved into the apartment, the same company acquires our MailHaven, what we're doing in MailHaven.
Yeah, MailHaven. Because the thing of it is that what I love most about your story is that you took the failure and you said, okay, one time, shoulda, coulda. But I'm moving on to my next idea. Is that I took, and it wasn't a complete pivot, but it was in that same vein, because we should always be identifying the other things that we can do with those same businesses.
Yes.
I'm going to take a pause right here, and I'm going to have this section edited out. Okay, hold on 1 second, because my food is here. Which is so funny you're talking about this. Baby, you can come.
All right, no problem. Yeah, do it. You got it.
That's so funny. My editor is so good because I know I never take a break, and whenever I do, they're always like, "You took a break in the middle of an episode."
Nice. They'll get it going.
Grubhub just got here. Well, my husband just
Did
Grubhub's here.
he acquire the company that I was talking about?
Right? Exactly. But the thing of it is that you set in that moment, you realize, okay, this is not what I wanted to do. This is not working out. But in that same vein, it's like always identifying or reimagining your current company and what that growth would look like. Because whenever I talk to so many individuals about their growth plan, because easily you could have continued doing what you were doing, deliveries, and still had this idea of what if we had a compartment that did these things? You know, that idea was still in you. It was going to still come out. Point. You know what I mean? But that's a growth plan. That's a part of that idea of saying, we start here, but how about if we continue here? Uber was just dropping people off. And they're like, well, heck, while we're in the car, we could just go pick up some food. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
All right. All of these ideas kind of grow from these, just a very small, whatever that seed is, and can really matriculate into so many other opportunities. And it's just, it's so, I hate to hear individuals that say, I'm just going to be doing this. This is what I'm going to do. The growth, the idea of growth, it's scary, but it's so powerful because look where you are today, on top of the world, right?
Yeah, it's in some manner. Yeah, well, right. I'll take that for sure.
Yeah, I see blue sky behind you, so the analogy just felt perfect.
I'd say so. For sure, I agree. I agree 100%.
That's awesome. So the thing of it is that what do you have? Like, what message do you leave for people, individuals who are young, ambitious, that are wanting to start a career, wanting to start a startup, that have an idea? What kind of advice do you give them?
Oh, so I guess I'll say some person. I think after my failure, I was just so gung ho ready to get at it again. Right? I was like, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna take some break. I'm gonna try at it again. Like, what's the worst that could happen? And then after my win, it was like, oh, let me relax. It wasn't like that. So what I guess what I'm trying to say is that, you know, failure it's not as bad as you seem. Like, you can find something from it, right? Like, you can find something that you might not be able to find from other things, from even positive situations. That there's nothing that you can find from it. In some positive situations, you're just relaxed, you're just comfortable. Mm-hmm. But in that negative, or in that, I wouldn't call it negative, but in that situation that doesn't seem positive to you immediately, that situation is where you can dig deep. It's where you can be like, okay, look, I'm at the ground. There's nowhere else I can go. I'm gonna just try all these things. I'm gonna see what happens, and if I fail, we'll see. But if I don't,
yeah,
what will happen? If I fail, I'll still have that energy. I'll still have the energy to do whatever I want. And I guess it'll go back to one last message that I have. I always tell people, be very optimistic, because what is the worst, right? So I failed and I'm like, no, I'm gonna do it. I got this. What is the worst that can happen if you say, hey, I'm gonna build a company and we're gonna have 100 customers? Mm-hmm. What's the worst that happen if you say you wanna do it in December, it doesn't happen?
Yeah.
Nothing. Nothing.
Nothing happened.
Better than not saying it. It's better than not doing anything. And so it goes back to that after failure. It's like, just do it. Once you have that situation as bad, dig deep, find out if there's anything from it that can motivate you towards being successful. And the mistakes you made there, you will find out that you're able to circumvent those mistakes, or at least know how to get up faster, even if you repeat those mistakes again.
Even if you repeat it. I love that, because gosh, yeah, there's so many nuggets that you put in there, because I always say that failures happen for our good. Yeah. And we don't know them right now. Nothing in the moment that your ACL, was it your ACL was?
Yeah, ACL.
That was it. You couldn't say like, oh, this is for my good because this is about to work out. I having to pay 40% for all the fleet of vehicles that you had. You weren't like, oh, this is about to be like everything that I needed it to be. But when in those moments, if you just keep that seed buried inside of you, like, it sucks, but somehow this is going to be for my good. You end up being able to look back on it and then being able to say like, wow, if that would have happened, if I hadn't had this experience, if I hadn't have lost in this situation, I wouldn't know A, the things to look out for, and B, look where I am now because of that. You know what I mean? So it's so powerful. Yeah. Just to wrap your arms around the failures, you know what I mean? And embrace them, because they're going to happen. Yeah. And if you're willing to learn from them, you're going to win. You'll always win in the end. I
always.
love that. So what's next? You said you're not sitting back. So what's next?
Now I'm doing something that I think is really cool. I started a studio, like a venture studio. It's a studio where I'm just working on some ideas that I really like. I have a first idea we're working on, and I think this is all related to e-commerce. I think we're at a pivotal time where the way people shop is changing, what people shop for is changing, people's expectations of shopping is changing. Kind of like, I think this is like a part 2 or 3, or we can just say it's a next chapter of the earlier chapter, which was next day delivery, right? That was very monumental. That was really huge. And so I think the next thing for us in shopping is the experiences. Is like, what are all the things that make shopping fluid? And what I call fluid commerce is just a commerce where what are the things that could stop, maybe a stop, you order something and it's out of stock, right? That's one reason. Right. You order something and the website is down. That's another reason. Or you order something and it gets stolen. Anything, any obstacle to making commerce fluid, I want to be able to remove that or just like investigate that. So the first thing that we're doing is, same thing I've been working on, misdeliveries and stolen packages, really, but we're just doing alerts, right? When you order from some retailers, they send you alerts 30 minutes after the package has been delivered, so it's sitting out on your porch. So my goal is to make sure your packages do not relax. They do not sit out on your porch and take that sun and smoke a cigar. They should be in the house. Stop playing outside on the porch. Package, go inside within 5 minutes. So it notifies you within 5 minutes of a package being delivered, so you can go outside and get it. Our customers are retailers, so that they don't use old archaic systems that send emails to you. They get lost, or emails that says, hey, your package has been delivered 4 hours after it's actually been delivered. So that's what we're working on now.
That's dope. As somebody that has found themselves now, especially because of COVID, barely leaving their house, like when my pizza's sitting on the ground, I would be pissed in the now I'm like, thanks.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
I don't contactless ordering everything that I order is delivered. You know what I mean? Like, everything, that's the kind of life that we live, but here we are, and it's not going away, and it's not going to change. And so I absolutely love that, man. I knew you had something up the sleeve, something up the sleeve. I love that. Kela, this has been such a blessing. I am so glad that we took the time to have this conversation, because you're an inspiration to anybody that says, man, I don't really know if I want to do grad school. You know what I mean? Like, it sounds like a logical move, but I mean, just take it from opportunities. Like, if it doesn't feel right, then don't do it. If it feels perfect, then do it. But you got to follow your gut. You know what I mean? Let your gut be your guide, and you'll never go wrong. And even if you break your ACL and have to have surgery, you will heal. You will be okay.
Matter of fact, I had another ACL surgery this year, and I started a new company. Right.
That's like you're knowing, like, if I have to have an ACL surgery, I'm about to break. It's about to happen.
So you can transmute those bad moments and be like, hey, whenever this thing happens, this happens. No, thank you. You're also, an inspiration to us and to me, and all the things that you've done, and the different projects that you have. Let us know that, look, keep things going. That saying, jack of all trades, master of none. That's not for the 2000s. That's an old thing.
All of it. Do you understand me? Mastering all the things that we're participating in. I love that. Well, thank you again, Kela. It's always a pleasure. We need to hook up again really soon. It's sad we live in the same city and we orbit each other, but I'm glad we were able to meet in this sacred space and be able to share today. So thank you.
Thank you so much, G. You have a wonderful time.
Thank you.
Thank you to those who sponsored and supported this episode. And the biggest thank you to Sophia Mobley Photography and Videography for being the dopest producer, sound engineer, and editor in the land. Please like, share, and subscribe at The Failure Report on YouTube, Facebook, Facebook Watch, Instagram, IGTV, and on Twitter at Report Failure since The Failure Report was taken. You can listen on Spotify, iTunes Podcasts, or wherever you consume content. To get notifications on our upcoming episodes, please visit our website at thefailurereport.org. There you can subscribe to become a fellow failure and get access to our blog and merchandise. We have things like mugs, t-shirts, notepads, all the things. I'm Deon Stokes. Thanks so much for listening.